Hello my lovelies, thank you so much for coming back to my channel. Today I just wanted to quickly come on here and talk about a lesson that I've been learning recently. If you watch my videos, you're probably similar to me and you're on the self-improvement life because of course it's a life journey. And I think this particular thing has made me feel more joyous and give me more of a purpose to my life. I just wanted to share this with you guys in the hopes that it helps somebody. I would say I'm quite a balanced person, so for most of my life, even if I was working hard, I'll always go have my fun. And fun looks different for everybody. So for me, it's going to the spa, getting a matcha in a cafe and reading a book, journaling, just kind of that introspective alone time. But I kind of had this weird feeling. It was kind of like a doom that was always there. Even though I was actually doing a lot and working towards my goals, I just didn't feel like I was doing enough. And the main reason is because I wasn't giving myself credit for the mini wins. So I'd have these times where I'd be working really hard towards my goals, putting in the effort, but then I would have this doom of like, but it's not working, I'm not doing good enough, and it would be so demotivating that I would just kind of burn out and stop, and then I would start back again. And it was this kind of cycle that I was in. I realized I was measuring success by the outputs and not the inputs, and that was really detrimental to my happiness in the day-to-day. We've all heard that phrase that once you get to the end, you don't feel anything, it's not worth it. But we still naturally still try and get there. And I'm not saying it's bad to try and get there, but I'm saying if we don't enjoy the journey and actually enjoy the journey, like don't just say like, I'm enjoying the journey. Like if you don't actually enjoy the journey, this whole point of life will be so meaningless. And even if you get the fruits at the end, it would be fruitless because you spent more of your life waiting for those highs than living your life. And I just refuse to believe that this is how we're meant to live life, even though we all do it. There's got to be a way out. There just has to be. And recently, I think I've been finding a way that really works for me. So I also did some research on this topic. So let me explain what input and output is and how if we change our definition of success, we can not only one, enjoy the process more and actually live a life that's happy, which at the end of the day, that is what we all want. But secondly, we can actually get to our goals faster with more certainty and assurance if we have this mindset of focusing on our inputs and our outputs. Let me explain. So the inputs are the actions that you can control and you can measure. And the outputs are the outcomes that you want, but you can't fully control them. Let me expand. So think of your outputs as your goals and your inputs as the habits, the actions in between. Say if your goal was to get an A in an exam, that is your output. That is what you want at the end. But you have to understand you're not fully in control of getting the A because that all depends on the paper, the exam, how you feel on the day. Most you can do is kind of put your best foot forward. So your inputs are basically that. So it's the number of hours you study for, the question banks you go through, the number of times you ask your teacher for some feedback, the extra papers you read, the extra research you do outside of the topic. The problem is far too often I see people measuring their success as their output, so the grade you get at the end, as opposed to your inputs. And while this is a great feeling and it can work if you do get these results, what happens when you don't get those results? What happens when those outputs and those results take a bit longer to get to? And most of our big goals that we're working towards are long-term goals, and they depend on this compound effect of consistent habits. This idea about small consistent improvements that lead to huge changes over time as opposed to doing those big things. And I think if we focus on these little things, we will actually enjoy the process and we'll get there faster, which is literally the case in longer goals, such as your fitness journey, opening a business, getting a certain revenue, having a specific career job. These things take a lot of time and effort, and it can be so easy to just focus on that and obsess over the output and just completely not give yourself credit for all the work you're doing in the input. And by feeling all of that defeat and unmotivation because you're not at the output, you can just start slacking on your input and slacking on your goals because you're going to feel like they're not really getting you there. What's the point of doing them? And this is what leads to frustration in our day-to-day, and like I said, essentially leads to downfall of us not achieving our goals. However, if you shift your focus to your inputs and you give credit to yourself for them and you track them, you can actually be consistent with them. And actually, if you think about it, that will actually get you your results while letting you enjoy the process. And I just want to share with you how we can do that. I'm going to give another example, like I said, on fitness goals. Say if your goal is to lose 10 kg. Obviously, that's not going to happen overnight. So losing 10 kg is the output. However, your inputs are your daily habits, your daily actions that you can control and measure. That could be your calories that you're tracking, how often you're going to the gym, what type of intensity workouts you're doing, how long you're there for, your diet, are you getting your 10k steps in, are you drinking your water, are you eating your greens, blah, blah, blah. We all know losing 10 kg isn't something that's going to happen like this. So focusing on something that isn't coming to you for ages is only going to be demotivating and make you feel bad about yourself. Whereas if you focus on these little wins and you're like, okay, by the end of the week, I've gone to the gym 6 times, let me go do this to celebrate, let me go do this to show appreciation for myself. You actually have an incentive to keep going with those habits and you get to the goal faster. And especially in career, this is important because I think it's so easy to chase promotions, chase the next level of qualification we can get instead of focusing on the current things that we have going for us. And if you know about the book Atomic Habits by James Clear, it talks about a habit loop. It talks about cue, craving, response and reward, which is the habit loop. Having a reward for these little habits will consistently make that wheel go round, making you be consistent with these habits. Just to conclude, this mindset works because number one, it removes the anxiety of trying to control things that you can't control. Because like I said, the long-term outputs are not directly in your control. Number two, it keeps you consistent because these small wins / inputs are easier to track and easier to form into habits. Number three is going to build your self-trust and your confidence. And this one is the most important one. So we've got two people focusing really hard on their goals. Person A is very output focused and thinking about the end goal. In that process, despite doing all the good habits in between, they're always going to feel in that place of lack because they haven't got their goal yet. Naturally, that's going to affect your confidence over time. And the narrative in that person's head is going to be they're a failure because they haven't got to that final output / goal yet. But person B is also doing these crazy habits and they also have a goal in mind, but they're focusing on their inputs. So they're focusing on the fact that, oh, they've been to the gym 6 times this week. They've gone to work 30 minutes early and stayed 30 minutes behind because they were working on their personal project. They spent an hour after work focusing on their personal business goals and their side hustles. They focus on the fact that they've been eating healthy and hitting their protein goals for 6 days this week. And their narrative in their head is, I'm so good, oh, I'm so in track, I've kept the promises that I made for myself, I showed up for myself, I've done the things that I said I would do, and I'm proud of myself every single day. I know about you, but I want to live like person B, not person A, because person B is actually happy in their life, and I would much rather be the second person because you have to understand that most of life consists of that journey of us becoming, not those final big days where we achieve our goals. They come and they go. Yes, they're great and we should aim for them, but if we don't start enjoying the process and then focusing on our inputs, we're always going to feel like we're behind, we're on a rat race and we're failing. And I really just don't want to do that. The practical way to change your mindset is number one, write out your output goals and your input goals and link them up. Number two, make yourself a habit tracker, and in the habit tracker, you're only going to have the inputs. Your outputs can be on a different piece of paper, but they're not going to be things that you're looking at and tracking every day. Number four, you're going to reward yourself for consistent inputs, not for the outputs. Because like I said, the outputs are not in your control, but the inputs are totally in your control. Number five, you're going to ignore the output. You're going to ignore it. If you know you're working hard, but you haven't got the goal you're meant to get, and you are re-strategizing, reflecting and trying things different, if you feel like your input's just not working, you do not need to focus on the fact that you haven't got to where you want to get to. Instead, you're going to focus on the person you are becoming through this journey, the lessons you're learning through these trials and tribulations, because these are the things that build character. This is what gives you the wisdom to help others in the future. And this is the most important thing in life, and you will actually be proud of yourself. A personal goal for me at the moment is to become a better dentist because I'm a dentist. I want my patients to be happy and I want to give them fillings that last for like 10 years. That's great and that's a great long-term goal, but what are the inputs I can focus on? Some of these outputs, for example, a filling lasting 10 years isn't even actually in my control completely because it can depend on the sugar the patient's eating, how well they're taking care of their teeth, things that are not in my control. However, things I can focus on is my technique for preparing the tooth, my technique for the filling itself. Did I remove all the decay accurately? Did I have good moisture control when I was doing the filling? These kind of things. You see how different those two are. These are specific things that I can work on, and this is just an overall outcome of a goal. Even though it sounds specific, it's actually not that specific. So what I'm trying to encourage you guys is not to not dream big and not to have big goals, because you absolutely should have them. That is important. I have big goals for myself, but focus on the inputs because you will get to your goals faster. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video and learned something new. I really encourage you to reflect on your outputs versus your inputs. Like I said, I tried to give some examples for this video because I think this concept is actually so important and overlooked, and I think not focusing on our inputs and not having this mindset shift can really rob us of true happiness, joy and building that self-confidence and self-trust. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you learned something new. Please leave a comment and subscribe. Have an amazing day. Bye.